Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to our live conversation about creative society on AllatRa TV. My name is Tatiana, and today I would like to introduce our special guest, Isabel Hunt, sociologist, multi-award-winning film producer of the film The Power of Connection, inspirational speaker, and author of the book The Power of Faith-Driven Success. Welcome, Isabel. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well.
Amazing. In your movie, you use a lot of deep life concepts, such as how our mind works and how we can add more clarity using it to our life. What made you to discover those concepts?
It was, I was very much interested in human behavior from a very young age. I grew up in East Germany, so it was still under communism back then, but I was still quite young when the fall came down, and that also gave me the opportunity to kind of study with my dad, because he wasn't allowed to get higher education because he belonged to a church until the wall came down. So I was old enough to kind of follow along in what he was studying when he started to get his degree in social work. And so I started reading his books very early on. I remember at 12, I started reading his books and was very interested in psychology and human behavior. At 16, I checked out universities who had a major in psychology. And, you know, they sometimes have those little test templates that they send you with test content, I guess. And so I just wanted those to learn more. I did not end up studying psychology, but I did study sociology. And, well, that included psychology and human behavior over time. And then really getting into the spiritual side of things started when I moved to the US. I think I feel like I had to step away from my old programming, from my old country, like the things that I know that are familiar, to rediscover myself. And that's where the concepts within the film are also coming from that journey and understanding, who am I in a different world when you don't feel German, when you don't feel really American either? Like, what is your identity within that, and how is part of those identities that we have accepted getting in the way for us to connect with other people, but also with ourselves, because we're always struggling to figure out who we are, what we're supposed to do, and that can very easily lead to, you know, depression, even other mental challenges like PTSD. So that's where I really have come full circle within the last 10 years and bringing this all together.
I see. Actually, many immigrants can recall what you just explained, but right now we have very unique situation in a way. People face challenges they never had before, and we are also divided more than before. But imposed isolation showed us how important real communication is. We are social beings, and we feel very bad without the ability to talk to our loved ones, to hug people around us, right? Mm-hmm. So do you believe that technologies can fully replace those real conversations?
I think it can support the conversations, but it will not replace the actual physical connection that you have, because we know hugs calm your nervous system. It brings down, you know, the hormones that create stress. And that's why children only feel safe when they experience the love, the hug from the parents, like being around the parents a lot. That's why we have so many behavioral issues with children, because so many parents feel that they have to go to work every day, that they have to work 12 plus hours, so barely really see their children, and able to giving them that space, this physical space of love, the connection. So I think with COVID, or with even the lockdown, that has made that even more clear, that the physical connection will never be replaceable. However, when we shift our understanding to that everything is energy, and no matter through what medium we are communicating, we're always connected. So even when you sit outside by yourself, and I know you had Tom Cronin on your TV show as well, who's all about meditation, and he did the film on meditation. when you even sit outside and you just notice how everything is connected, you never truly feel alone or disconnected. And from that place, technology can be incredible communication tool, because you and I are as much connected now through the medium of the computer, the internet, as if we were to sit across from each other in person having this conversation. But again, it would never replace the actual physical connection, the contact that we need to calm our nervous system and to be more present.
Yeah, but there are many theories why we have the situation. Probably our actions as humanity, some wrongdoings, led to this terrible stuff when we are forced to stay apart, right? So how do you envision society where connection and human interactions would be free and basically transparent and honest as much as possible?
You mean the ideal situation? Like what would be a vision? Okay. So I'm a visionary. So I see often pictures, especially when I'm in meditation. There are times where I meditate 2 to 3 hours a day. And so sometimes I have this picture where it's almost like I am able to fly over the earth. Like as a child, I always explained it to my mom. It's like the world in a snow globe, and I feel like I can shake it up and I can watch it. It's like, I have also synesthesia, so I see everything in color. And so when I focus on specific areas in the world or people, I see colors shifting. And with the psychology of color, I also see, you know, what is happening within a person right in that moment, or within a city, the collective energy of it. So what I would envision, and I think we're partly getting there, because even with COVID, I often feel that I have created a parallel universe where I don't watch the news, so I don't really pay attention to what's going on, because I don't want this to become my absolute reality. Because we know someone spreads an idea, the idea, you know, gets followers. Once you have a certain amount of followers, the idea becomes something that is being accepted. From acceptance, it becomes the truth. From truth becomes reality. And suddenly it's the reality of people that really experience that. But if we were to shift our understanding and our perspective on things, this reality may actually not be true. It may just be an illusion that we have created with the understanding of separation from a divine force and the separation from each other. So what I love seeing, or what I know where we will get to, is almost like energetic time split, I think, where we're heading to, where you see more people that are very conscious in their understanding of life, who are more connected to nature, who understand the power of their body and their spirit, and the power that comes from understanding what it means to have this divine force within ourselves from what we're operating, and having the power to shift things, to manipulate energy, but always within the greater good of all. And so I think what we're going to see over the next probably decade is more and more smaller communities where people work together on a bigger property, working together in growing their own food, operating more from a holistic lifestyle. And then there will also be, see, I'm putting this into manifestation. I really believe that there will also be a financial system. I don't know if this would be translated into some kind of digital currency or whatever, but that connects those different communities together, where we get to support each other financially or with whatever we need. So eventually, I feel we have this incredible web that we get to weave in supporting each other, really, with this like-minded, there is enough for everyone. We all can work together. We can honor Mother Earth, yet not having to sacrifice some of, the luxury that we have come to get used to, that has become the need of survival, even it may not be. But I think with a deeper understanding of who we are and what we are capable of, a lot of the material world, a lot of the consumerism will automatically fall away. I know from myself, the deeper I went into myself, the more I was aware of my need, the less material things I needed to feel a certain way. And now I'm like, I don't really need that. I have enough. Or I'm not really, I don't care what my neighbor has and I want that too, just because they have it or to look better. I absolutely do not care anymore. And from that perspective, I can use the money that I have for different causes that are supporting humanity, that are supporting our neighbors. Like we have a big, well, we don't have a big backyard, but we have a big garden in that little backyard. So everything is pretty much grown over. And so what we do, a lot of the food we can't use, even if we freeze it, if we dehydrate it, so we just share it with the neighbors because we can, right? And support them in having organic, healthy food. We have some neighbors that came to us and said, we've never experienced anything like that, where neighbors actually take care of each other in that way. And they had just moved here into our neighborhood. That really frazzled me because this is how I grew up, right? In Germany, we have those garden areas where everyone has their garden and you just share cherries, plums, whatever there is with each other. And that's how I really envision the world getting back to those smaller communities, yet as part of a bigger web that we get to weave together, where we always feel supported so that we can live out our creative side, our playful side, the joy again, just to being a child, to being like children and to just play. I miss play so much. I have a 7-year-old and I didn't realize just until recently how much I miss just playing and just being in the moment without always thinking about, oh, I need to do this. Okay, how can I add more income here so that we can pay for this and for that? Instead, I was just almost like forcing, but it's just setting the intention to be more playful.
Yeah.
And I think eventually we get to a point where that becomes everyday's normality. Like this is how we're going to live life because we know we will always be provided for and have enough. That's what I really see happening. And I don't think it's just a vision. I actually think that this will become our perceptive and collective reality.
Yeah, actually, as you mentioned, consumerism is a format that leads us actually nowhere, and it makes people feel powerless. It imposes that we have to be separated instead of creating together and doing something together and creating especially supportive environment. And one part of it is unity among people, respect, and it is amazing that we already making some steps, very important steps towards unity on the earth. And few years ago, volunteers around the world started asking people a pretty similar question as I just asked you about the world they would love to live in, where everybody is equal and happy. And based on their responses, the main foundations of creative society were formed. And let's watch a short video about those foundations.
The biggest social polling in our entire history of civilization has been conducted during the last 10 years by people around the world. 180 countries, millions of people of different social statuses, denominations, nationalities, talk about the society in which they want to live in. And this is a creative society based on the answers of the people from around the world. 8 foundations of creative society were established. A society where all people can live in happiness, peace, and prosperity. This is that very society that our prophets bequeathed to us. All prophets talked about the value of life, freedom, honesty, common human values, equality before God, mutual respect, and unification of people, about love for each other. They talked about the common truth and about the world which we can create. The prophet said, there will be a time when we're able to build a creative society. We are honored to live in the time which the prophets talked about, when everyone is chosen.
So when we do those interviews, it's always amazing how similar answers are. Like we all have similar needs, similar wants, but I'm curious about your opinion. What can each of us do personally to get closer to this creative society?
Well, that's not the first time someone asked me that question. And I always say radical honesty with ourselves is the first step. I think even in the film, I started out with this radical honesty with where I was at that really created division within myself, but mostly with other people that I perceived as different. People who didn't believe the same thing, who didn't look like me, people who just had different values. And I created that gap. I created this arm length, stay over here so that I can feel safe. I think the very first realization that people need to have is that it starts with ourselves, because we have this collective intellectual energetic field, right, that we're born into from like our individual energetic field. For whatever reason, our soul chooses this particular collective energetic field that we're being born into. And I say it in the film at the end, I think, something I've watched it so many times, I should know that by now, but something too, that it is the individual that defines the culture of the whole. So within our own individual energetic field, when we shift toward compassion, love, kindness, understanding, acceptance, we automatically create a ripple effect within the energetic field of the collective. And we're shifting each little molecule, each little particle toward the frequency of love. And the more people do that, the more it becomes the accepted reality of the whole, and we're shifting the entire collective energetic frequency. Right now, this collective energy is still stuck within the matrix of separation. You can tell like there's something almost like a force trying to keep it alive, trying to hold it to where just the few have a sense of power, just a few are able to control the masses. But we're seeing all over the world that is not working anymore. This is just all starting to slowly break apart and fall apart. And we're seeing people standing up to truly embodying unity and community within all kind of different nations. I mean, here we are. I'm originally from Germany. You're originally from the Ukraine, right? But we both live in the US. And so this is a whole nother cultural circle. And yet we can have conversations that are, open and inviting and based on love. And I think that's where we're heading toward.
Yeah, indeed. The situation isn't working, and especially when power belongs to just few people who think
Right.
they are gods or can do whatever they want. And it is interesting that just this Saturday we had international conference, Global Crisis. This already affects everyone. It was spontaneously translated into 72 languages, and people actually discuss those topics, especially how AI, artificial intelligence, would affect us, and how bad the situation with ecology went through. And do you believe that people have a role in this climate disasters that we're facing right now, when weather basically changes and there are more and more events that makes people to relocate, for example?
Yes, this is a tricky topic because people really fast put you either on the left or the right side, right? And depending your answer, but I think there is a way in between. I don't necessarily believe in climate change as being presented by the left. Reason is we do have the technology, at least the governments do have the technology to change weather patterns. That means they have technology, and that's all based on, quantum and whatever else there is. I'm not too familiar with all of that, but we do have, military in particular, have technology that can shift weather pattern, however it is most of service to the few, because the more you have people suffering, the more you can control them. So we know that, like, I think it was even, where was it? It was to one Olympics a couple years ago. Was that somewhere in Asia? I cannot remember exactly where it was, but I remember where they were talking about that they were blowing those particles into the clouds because they wanted nice weather for the Olympics and they needed it, blah, blah, blah. So they dissolved the clouds with technology. So we are capable of doing that. On the other hand, it is about responsibility. We can say it doesn't exist because that again gives the individual the excuse, oh, I can just continue my life as I have, and we're just throwing plastic into the oceans. The more you the less you pay attention to what you're actually using and how you're using certain materials, even if it's chemicals down the drain, how you treat your yard, if it's, just running off into the pond. Like we have a pond right here and it's disgusting because all the crap runs right into the pond and all the animals are dying from it. So there's a level of responsibility that we need to understand. And again, the more we go within, the more we feel the connection even to nature. Like sometimes I just go out and have a conversation with the doves. We have baby doves. They don't fly away. They just look at you and like, oh, nice conversation. Great. Like they are that far away from you and they don't even do anything. We have lots of baby bunnies and they just sit there, I don't know. It's just a frequency thing that they don't feel threatened by you and they just come and just sit there. Even with the plants, you talk to the plants and thank them for the harvest that you were able to do. When you get so deep where you understand that everything is one, you do anything and everything to protect Mother Earth. You start to really respect Mother Earth from how you use things. Now, obviously, we will never be able to completely, fully get rid of plastic, not within the next probably 50, 60 years, I would assume. But eventually everything will shift, more is able to do with hemp. We try not to use single-use plastic anymore at all. That's why I have my water bottle here that I take everywhere. Those kind of things. So there's an in-between between the radical left and how it is portrayed. And again, the way it is portrayed there is very much about control. If we don't, it's fear-mongering. If we don't do this, then this will happen. Where on the other side, you have the other extreme. Oh, none of that is true, so we don't really have to do anything. It's just, conspiracy. No. There is a middle. There is an in-between, and that's where we have to meet. But, people, whoever on which side, who are about fear and who are about power, they are not willing to meet in the middle because it doesn't serve their agenda and their motives. So that is my take on that. The responsibility is there for every individual, but we have to meet in the middle, and we have to understand that there's a lot going on that we don't even know about. Because now you have the scenarios where the ultra rich create tunnels to keep themselves safe and bunkers and tunnels to connect them all. And you're just like, you don't think that will have an effect on the structure of the ground now, like earthquakes or something, maybe. So, all of that is with an intent. And I think that's what we have to become aware of. And we need to have more clarity on what is being used by the military, what is being used by governments, and then the self-responsibility on the other side.
Yeah, and actually, so much resources right now we are using on military to protect some groups to protect some interest, while in reality we have those situations when we need to unite, when we need to be supportive, and even there are so many disasters already happening. We have those climate refugees, but we never know, maybe you or me become refugee one day, and what we can do, right? And even those tunnels may not protect them. So as you mentioned, it's all about personal responsibility, and future of our planet depends on each of us. Yes. So what would you wish for people to make these changes possible?
One of my very general messages is that right now, right here is the time for us to rise. That is rising by going deeper. And if we can all step a little bit aside, and COVID really gave us that opportunity to come to ourselves, to go back home within ourselves so that we can rise within the masses and really create a massive shift within our consciousness.
Thank you, Isabel, for all inspiring answers and for joining us in our efforts to build Creative Society. For those who want to learn more about Creative Society project, please visit our website, AllatRaUnites.com, and press button Join Us. In this case, you will be notified about the news and may get actively involved in areas of your interest, because we have different parts of this project. Creative Society is not a dream, it's reality that can be possible if all of us decide so. Together we can do wonderful things and make our world a better place, the world we deserve. Thank you.
The anxiety is growing stronger and stronger. Sometimes it seems to us that this feeling is deceptive. But unfortunately, irreversible processes are obvious. The climate on the planet is changing rapidly. Cataclysms are growing. The reasons for this are cyclical processes related to outer space. Affecting the core of the planet. So what do we do? Find out at the International Online Conference Global Crisis. This already affects everyone.